This is a call to order of the regular Board of Aldermen meeting at the Salado Municipal Building located at 301 North Stagecoach Road in Salado, Texas. The time is 6:30 p.m. Ms. Bean, please call the roll.
Let the record show all present.
Thank you. Next is the invocation. I'm going to do things a little bit differently than what we're accustomed to, but we'll go on to the invocation. As we begin the Board of Aldermen meeting, let us take a moment to reflect on our shared commitment to serve the diverse community of the Village of Salado. We invite all present, regardless of faith, belief, or philosophy, to join us in a spirit of unity, respect, and compassion. May our deliberation be guided by wisdom, our decisions rooted in fairness, and our actions driven by the common good. Whether you find inspiration in a higher power, the bonds of humanity, or the wonders of nature, let us work together to build a culture where every voice is heard and every individual is valued. So let's just take a moment, please. Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one nation, under God, one indivisible. Thank you. Now we'll open it up to public comments. The Board of Aldermen welcomes comments from citizens on issues and items of concern not on the agenda. Those wishing to speak must sign in before the meeting begins and observe a 3-minute time limit when addressing the board. Speakers will have one opportunity to speak during this time period. Speakers desiring to speak on an agenda item will be allowed to speak when the agenda item is called. Inquiries about matters not listed on the agenda will either be directed to staff or placed on a future agenda for Alderman consideration. Mr. Jim Boynton.
Jim Boynton, 3565 FM 2843 Salado. I'd like to speak and compliment everybody that has been elected to the board freshly. I'm going to encourage everyone to work together. Together we can do a lot of good stuff. If we keep up what we've been doing for the last 10 years, we're doomed. We don't need to keep putting the same people on the same board. Let's get fresh folks on the board who live in the city. I don't live in the city. I shouldn't serve on the board. But neither should anybody else that doesn't live in the city. Understand that all these people that come up here and speak, they have heartfelt concerns, and until now, it appears they were being ignored totally. What happened before now, we can't fix. We can't fix what the former mayor and the former city manager did. We cannot. So we're going to have to patch it all up. And I want to encourage you guys to work together to make it better for everyone, most especially people that are paying taxes here. Don't give away the farm, these folks incoming with promises. If they want to come here and make a living, let them pay their way. Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all's effort.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. Next item is the consent agenda. We got A, approval of minutes of May 16, 2024 regular Board of Aldermen meeting. Acknowledgement of receipt of petition for release of an area from the Village of Salado's extraterritorial jurisdiction from Lori L. Fleet. Acknowledge receipt of petition for release of an area from the Village of Salado's extraterritorial jurisdiction from Billy B. Dunlap. Mr. Del Rosso, you got anything to add to that? Not good.
No, sir, nothing.
Any discussion on the board?
No. Any questions?
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
Motion presented by Alderman McDonald. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Bell. Any more discussion?
Question.
Question has been called. All in favor for approval of the consent agenda as written, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 4-0. 3, discuss and consider possible action regarding any item removed from the consent agenda. There were none. Number 4, status reports. 4 Alpha, Village Administrator's Report. Mr. De La Rosa.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Alderman. You might recall that I already emailed you the fiscal year 2025 budget preparation calendar, so we're starting to go down through that. So we're going to deviate a little bit from of these items. For example, the June 20th, we have a Board of Aldermen. It's a regular call meeting, but we also have budget goals and priorities workshop. We can do that, or we can merge it with the July 2nd. So as we move toward the next agenda, we'll move these things around as needed. So what I do want to point out is that as we start to put this capital improvement plan together, a general fund plan, and the enterprise fund, which is your wastewater, I need to understand exactly what some of your priorities are that you're wanting to get in there so I can start running those numbers, right? Some of these meetings are going to be revenue and some are expenditures. Somewhere along the way, by the end of the process, we're going to have to reconcile that, okay? So it's important that you get your input to me as soon as possible, and any constituents you might have, that they get that to you and send that in and see if it makes it on the list, okay? We are going to have, right, every meeting, the public meetings, workshops, or regular meetings, there's an opportunity for the public to provide comments and to provide input, right? So, and again, very transparent in how we're going to go forward on some of these items. The capital improvement are kind of I don't like to call them a wish list, but it is a list that you're going to have to start planning for your future capital purchases, right? They can include anything from, remember, you are managing assets. Those assets can be human, physical, or it can also be capital. So every one of those is going to be important to us, and I've already started working with our city accountant, Christy Siegel. We're starting to put some spreadsheets together. We're looking at historical, but I think this is going to probably be one of your most comprehensive budgets because I need to start planning not for the next year or 5 years. We're going to try and plan out for the next 10 years. Some of that growth is going to be hitting you. You cannot afford to pay it all at one time. So that's kind of my long-term plan for now, and that capital improvement plan doesn't generally stop at 10 years. They go further out. So this is certainly at least to give you an idea of what we need to be landing over the next few fiscal years coming up. That's all I have on that. Mayor and Alderman, if you have any questions, I'd like to answer them now before I move on to the Pace Park improvements, proposed improvements.
I believe we had last year, didn't we, have a thing on the website where citizens could write in and give their ideas and opinions?
It looked like you had some type of a survey or something online. The way it read, it was published. We actually went back, confirmed there was never anything published. There's no requirements. So we can certainly try to figure out how that survey works and how to get that input. But a survey is only as good as the how you quantify your data, right? So a bad survey gives you bad information. A survey really needs to be thought through, and I would appreciate some of your help in putting those things together because my mindset may not be exactly what you're wanting to see for the future, right? So surveys are good if written properly, and the opposite is also true.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Pace Park?
Second, Pace Park. Okay, the parks, the Park Advisory Board and I have been meeting the last several months. I think the first meeting was probably in February with May. So we've really grown together. Now that we've completed the Pace Park All Ability Playground installation, and we scheduled a ribbon cutting for that event in mid-August before the start of school. We want to get summer behind us, and we certainly don't want to do this after school starts. But we started getting pricing for turf. Some of you've been there. I know, Mayor, you've been there, and I've spoken to some of you others. Instead of the sod that we have, you see where the sod by the picnic table, it's already, the traffic is starting to kill that grass. There's no irrigation system there because of the septic system right on the north side of those bathrooms, on the northern side of the pavilion inside the playground area. They would like to put a fence around that park enclosure because we have little children that could get beyond the rock wall and step out into the roadway. We would like to also probably make the Pace Park much more of amenity, meaning that it's been underutilized. I've met with some of the aldermen here recently. We've talked about having maybe Christmas events like a Christmas lighting event, Easter egg hunt, trunk or treat events. So not only will Pace Park, but also the creek area will all be incorporated with some improvements, and we'll be putting some type of capital improvement plan. And same discussion I had with them as I did with you was that we need to be planning short-term and long-term improvements. And we're getting some pricing already, so some of the staff is helping me with that pricing, and we started coming in with that information. So anything that you'd like to see. And somebody mentioned Serena Park, and I did travel to Serena Park with a former alderman not too long ago. Took me on an hour and 15-minute golf cart trip. It was fun. So, but I've got a different respect for Serena Park, and I saw a different vision, and plus some of the discussions that I had with you recently, Mayor, about some improvements, maybe bringing bathrooms to that building, the white building where it's part of the stagecoach inn. We'd like to incorporate that, maybe steps from that area, if we can have bathrooms reopen, steps from that area down to Serena Park, and instead of having to walk all the way around. So again, we're looking at these parks as amenities, quality of life improvements for our residents. Any other questions or any questions?
Manny, would we look at maybe Texas Parks and Wildlife to help with any kind of funding on some of these updates?
We're planning to apply for more grants for Texas Parks and Wildlife and other foundations that we can apply for. So that is certainly one, because we had discussions about including trails also, and there's funding if you implement those plans. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Next item is B, the police chief status report. Chief Fields.
Mayor, members of the board, good evening. It was an eventful May. We had quite a few things going on that we're going to discuss. Some of them I'm pleased with, some of them I'm not pleased with. But just want to give you that heads up before we get started. 449 calls for service. We were actually down 58 calls for service from last month. Average 14.48 calls for service per day. Last month it was 16. Priority stayed around the same, but we are down in priority 4 calls for service. So generally speaking, priority 4 calls for service are calls for service that are officer initiated. Not happy about officer initiated calls for service. We look at calls for service per day. The top one is last month, or actually the top one is April. The bottom one is May. You'll see we had a spike on Friday nights. We had more calls for service on Friday nights. In response to that, we have taken Officer Gatewood and moved him to a noon to midnight shift so that he is helping out the night shift officer on the weekends. You can also see that there was a spike around the 2 o'clock to about 5 o'clock time frame. The top one, again, is April. Bottom one is May. You see where we're getting more calls for service in the afternoon time frame. So in response to that, we're sliding more of our resources a little further back into the afternoon. We did make 2 arrests this month, 10 incident reports, 18 supplemental reports. We did have 42 crashes. 42 crashes. We were dispatched to the majority of those on I-35. majority of those crashes that we were dispatched to, we reminded DPS that Title 37 of the Texas Administrative Code says that they will have primary jurisdiction on interstate highways that run through towns that have less than 50,000 residents. I ruffled a few feathers on that, but I want you to know that the majority of those crashes that we responded to, we responded to as a secondary unit to assist with traffic control. We still get hit with responding to a traffic accident, but we didn't take the actual traffic accident report. There were 83 traffic stops, resulting in 33 citations, 50 warnings. Both of those numbers are down. Enforcement rate is 39.75%. If you remember from previous conversations that we've had, previous meetings, that I try to keep it between 40, 45, 50, somewhere around there. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to enforce the public. However, anybody who's had kids know that if you tell somebody that you're going to get ticketed, you keep doing this, you keep doing this. So, that enforcement rate, like I said, is a little bit low. I'd like to see it a little bit higher. We did assist outside agencies 6 times, and we did not appear before the grand jury this last month. On the 16th, we were dispatched, or on the 16th, we finished up with a criminal mischief investigation involving the gentleman that was pasting pro-Palestinian portraits all over our infrastructure. Come to find out, this is the same individual that painted Congressman Carter's office on the building. We worked with the Georgetown Police Department. They were able to make their case because my officer conducted a traffic stop on the individual and found him in possession of red paint the day before the event happened in Georgetown. They were able to get their warrant. However, I am pleased to say that when we found out that they were coming, we finalized our investigation. We got our warrant, and we got him before they did. So he was actually placed into the Bell County Jail on a criminal mischief warrant, and they went down and served their criminal mischief warrant while he was in jail. We did have a couple of UUMVs, 2 to be exact. UUMV is an unauthorized use of motor vehicle, stolen vehicle. First one happened at the intersection of Royal and Main. The individual left his keys in the car. The vehicle was taken. We tracked the vehicle down with the help of Belton Police Department. The vehicle was found on 2115, and the vehicle had been recovered. No damages involved. The vehicle's been returned, and the warrant is being sought for the individual that took that vehicle. Second one, UUMV, 3400 block of Chisholm Trail. That investigation is ongoing. I'd love to be able to tell you all a little bit more about it. However, I don't want to disclose anything that's going to mess up an investigation. We did an assist outside agency while investigating the stolen vehicle from the 3400 block of Chisholm Trail. We located a stolen vehicle from Temple, 2900 block of Chisholm Trail. We're almost positive those two are connected. So we're working with the Temple Police Department. That vehicle was stolen out of Temple, brought here, and dumped approximately a block and a half, 2 blocks from where our vehicle was stolen. So with that being said, we believe the 2 of those are connected, and we're working with the Temple Police Department to identify the individuals that were involved. He went to the area to attempt to locate that vehicle, observed that there was a lot of traffic backing up on I-35. He goes down to the first officer on scene. To be 100% honest with you, I planned on presenting him with a life saving award tonight. Unfortunately, I had to pull that off of the agenda. His mother lives in Midland, and I wasn't going to do it without his mother being present. He asked that his mother be present, so that should be on probably the first meeting that we have, our first meeting in July that we got. But with that being said, that was a horrific crash. As a result, my officer had to go and have blood work done because he was covered in blood. So there was a workers' comp claim on that, and we also sought peer support from Belton Police Department. They have a wonderful peer support group that kind of helped me talk his way through a few nightmares that were being had. So with that being said, understand that some of the things that we go to, they impact your life. Response times. Response times are about average, or I say about average, about what they've been. 4 minutes, 15 seconds on priority 1. Longest one up there is priority 4, which are usually very, very low priority calls, debris in the roadway, things of that nature. Took us 5 minutes and 29 seconds to get there, so that's actually not too bad. I would like to see the priority 3 and priority 4 to hit that 4-minute mark as well. We'll be working on that. We did a lot less house flyers. Apparently, we've got a lot less people taking vacations than that. Might be graduation, get ready for the summer, but we only did 23 house flyers. Now we're going to get to the part that I'm really not happy with. Our block system. We did 49,014 unique license plate captures. Out of that 49,014, none of them were stolen vehicles. That upsets me. I can tell you that me and my team have been looking at the placement of these cameras. We need to ensure that we are better geo-fenced. We have cameras that are really close together. We have cameras on each side of Thomas Arnold, or each side of 35 on Thomas Arnold. I think our cameras are too close together. So we're reevaluating where our cameras are. I will be coming to you at our next meeting, or the first meeting in July, and I'll make a recommendation on how we need to better geo-fence with these cameras. We have 10 of them. It costs $750 to move them. But if they're ineffective, and we need to come up with a plan that makes them effective. We had 68 alerts. When it comes to the alerts, we're talking things like stolen vehicle out of Georgetown. We're talking things like registered sex offender just went past, things like that. So we had 68 of those alerts. We did access the system 10 times. Those were for our UUMVs, the burglary and motor vehicle cases, outside agency, criminal mischief, and we also had to clean up a few off, take a couple of vehicles off of the hot list. We have a hot list that we put in there. If we get brought in 49,014. Our highest day was the 18th, which is actually odd because that's a Saturday. Normally we see those arcs come up on Monday, they level off, and then on Saturday and Sunday they usually take a pretty good dip. You see on the left-hand side of the screen, that's the Saturday and Sunday before. Each one of those got that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday we had a really big dip, and it came back down on Saturday and Sunday. Some of the department news. Officer Bolton attended an advanced arrest, search, and seizure training class. As part of our training, we're required to have basic arrest, search, and seizure. Well, we went ahead and sent her to an advanced class. Great information was put out. She came back. Not only did she benefit from it, but everybody in the department benefits from it because she's going to be helping teach what she learned down there to the rest of us. Sergeant Dungy instructed at the Basic Peace Officer Academy. He does teach firearms. Had a great time. I told him, I said, if you keep coming back here and telling me you have a great time at the range, I'm not going to pay you for it. But with that being said, he was there for 6 days, 3 days, 1 week, 3 days the following week. Cadet Manning had a day off in the academy, so we took advantage of that. We took care of his TASER certification. They don't actually certify them on TASER in the academy, but we went ahead and took care of that. And we also got him qualified on his additional firearms. His off-duty weapon and his long rifle. In the academy, they only qualify you on a pistol and a shotgun. So we got the other weapons that we could possibly carry on. We got him qualified on those as well. Next week, he'll be attending the EVOC course. That's Emergency Vehicle Operations course. And he's on track to graduate on July the 11th. That graduation will be at Temple College, and it will be, I believe, at 9 a.m. It starts at 9 a.m. Be happy to answer any questions.
Chief, on the block system, what are your ideas on how a vehicle that's stolen in Temple could get into Milk Creek and not pass a block system?
Well, we would not know that. Matter of fact, the owner of that vehicle that was stolen in Temple didn't know his vehicle was stolen until after we found it. Now, in order for it to hit our block system and us get notified that it is a stolen vehicle, it has to have been reported stolen and entered stolen into the NCICT CIC system.
So we don't think it has been entered.
It had not been
Had not been entered.
It had not been entered. Matter of fact, the individual that owns that vehicle, we found the vehicle, was hidden in a wood lot, 2900 lot. Officer made contact with Temple, said, hey, this is not listed as a stolen vehicle, but we don't normally have vehicles hiding in a wood lot. Can you go by the owner's house and make contact with them and see if they know where the vehicle is at? Temple went over there, made contact with him. He said, yeah, my vehicle's in the driveway. And they're like, no, it's not. So it's not going to hit as a stolen vehicle at a Temple because it had not been entered yet. But what upsets me is I can't look at flock and find where that vehicle came into town. That's why we are going to reevaluate how our geofence is set up.
I guess that's the question, is how could it get into that and not just pass? Because it seems like they had this set up pretty tight. I mean, it seems like there's only a couple, you'd have to know.
You would have to know. And I can tell you that that same vehicle that we found dumped here was more than likely used in burglaries for that same night. Temple had burglaries, Belton had burglaries, we had burglaries, Gerald had burglaries, and it was all a dark color. I'm just saying, probably the same course of action. I can tell you that if they came in off of Amity and came down Royal, they can make a right-hand turn on Smith Branch and get back into the housing area back in there, and you're not going to have it. So with that being said, we had a camera that was on Smith Branch. I'm having it pulled, removed, placed on Royal just north of Castle. That'll give us anything that comes down Royal off of Amity. We do have one on Royal, but it's further through the S curve closer to Banks. So with that being said, if somebody comes in that back way, we're not going to know about it until they get back. The city limits have expanded, we need to expand that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Do you have video of Cadet Manning getting tased? I'd like to see that.
No.
All right, thank you.
If I did, I would.
Item 4C, Tourism Department report. Ms. Whitson. Take a deep breath.
For that reminder, you can fall over.
Don't gang up all at
Don't
once.
lock the knees.
Just kidding. Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm here to give the tourism marketing report. So the first page is going to show you our website, SaladoTexas.com. This is for the month of May. We had 152 users. They've all used about a little over 2 minutes. Total sessions was 153. Page views a little over 1,400, and then we had several downloads as well on our website. The next page, our visitor center. In April, we had 372 visitors, and in May, we had 166. Next page. Our upcoming events that we have seems a pretty popular date, so you mark those on your calendar. Our Salado Music Friendly has their Village Beach Drum for the whole community. Our Salado Museum has their celebrating their 65th anniversary, and on June 27th we do have coffee with Village and networking for come to that. That's really all I have to report. I would like to just add a couple of things on here I found kind of interesting in doing my research in 3 weeks getting knee deep and everything. I thought it would be kind of interesting to see where people are coming from. It showed our biggest out-of-state market is from Oklahoma. It showed our top in-state is from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The comparison of people on trips, we have quite a few number who are 50-50 on the first time visit and on coming back again. So I thought that was really neat to see. The reason that they're coming to our community is for our town, to show that we're good city. Our Facebook post shows that we have over 7,300 people that we've outreached, and so we're doing really well in our marketing side and just getting better. Y'all have any questions on anything?
I do.
Okay.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Can we go back to the slide where it shows percentages? All right, so I'm looking at there across the board. It's a little blurry here, but I notice there's a huge depression. In other words, we've lost viewers basically from month to month. Is that correct?
But you have to remember, we haven't had anybody in that position for the month of April, and I came in the middle of May. I've been here 3 weeks.
Yes,
Correct.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Just want to clarify
Yeah.
that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next item is 5A, discussion and possible action. Discuss and possible action on request to waive the food vendor permit fee for the Salado Scottish Gathering and Highland Games, a 2-day event to be held during November 2024. Mr. De La Rosa.
Mayor and Alderman, with your permission, I'm gonna ask, Ms. Lynette Jones to step up to the, lectern to brief you on the request.
I'm Lynette Jones, I'm the Executive Director of Salado Museum and College Park. Since 1961, we have sponsored the Salado Scottish Gathering and Highland Games. The gathering is the primary fundraiser for the nonprofit museum. We operate fully on donations, grants, and this fundraiser. The building and college rooms property require daily maintenance and staffing to keep it in operation. The gathering also requires months of planning and organization. We've already deep into it right now. This event brings approximately 2,000 to 3,000 people to the village, and it has for 63 years. And while we do have vendors at the event, many of the participants and spectators come because they love to shop, eat, and visit Salado. This year will be my second year as museum director during the gathering, and the first as co-chairman. Part of our income from the gathering is from charging vendor space fees. In the past, food truck vendors have not been asked for food permits to serve their food. As someone who was in the restaurant business for almost 13 years, I recognize the importance of why it is necessary to enforce food service permits. Most of our vendors travel from outside of Bell County and some from outside the state. So they would hold health certificates from their home base, but not in Bell County. Adding the additional $50 village fee plus the Bell County certificate fee may make the event cost prohibitive to some of our loyal attendees. We would like to request the village waive the $50 permit fee for this 2-day event and accept their permit certificate from the vendor's local health district. They would also include their insurance certificate to the village office as part of the permit requirement. I'd like to also invite you all to come to the Scottish Gathering this year. Okay.
I have questions.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
What is the county fee? Does anybody know what the county fee is?
Well, when I had the restaurant, I think it's $250.
Okay.
And I don't know if they require that on food trucks or not, because I never had a food truck. I only had a food truck.
Okay, so we'll presume it's $250 and the village fee is $50. Right, so $300. Mr. De La Rosa, we don't have authority to waive fees at the county level, correct? Obviously.
No, we did not.
So who would do that at that level? In other words, if we waive our fee, who's waiving the county fee?
If the request is made, I would venture to say that it's the commissioner's court.
Commissioner's court is to make a decision. So have you made that request yet, ma'am?
I have not.
Okay. All right. Have they waived that fee in the past?
We never asked for the permit. It was never enforced.
Okay. Understood.
Like I'm taking on something that we've never done before, so.
So that's a question. The next question I have is, how many vendors on typical average does the Scottish Games bring to the community?
Last year we had 10, only 9 came.
10 vendors.
Just 10 food vendors.
Okay.
Food specific.
So food specific. What about, now are we asking for fees for any other vendors here in the community that could show up?
I don't think that's a requirement, but I know that.
No, not that I know of.
Okay, so we're talking 9 vendors then, say 10. How many people signed up so far? Do you have any so far?
We have one food vendor.
One committal so far?
So
Early.
we're still 6 months out.
How many can you fit? How many would you like to have?
Well, I'll just say this, last year there were lines at every one of them all day long on Saturday. So
Okay.
there wasn't enough, but it's hard to get them. It's really hard to get the food vendors to come. I don't know why. I guess they think it's a closed-in area. But it's a struggle to get those 10.
Got you. And what do you charge for what is your organization charging for food vendors to show up to your event?
There's 4 different sizes. 10 by 10 is $250. 10 by 20, 300. 10 by 30, $450, and then 500 per day.
For the big one? Understood. All right. All right. Are you waiving any of those fees for them to come to your event?
No, we are not.
Okay.
That's why we do this for, is to raise funds.
I understand. I understand that completely. Alrighty. And you said you had 9 vendors last year that did show up, and I remember my boy and I were walking around that place all the time. So.
Were you able to get a Scottish pie? Because I was.
Mm-hmm.
Too many people on that.
All right. So my reason I'm asking these questions is because I looked at your request, and where I'm at is this. I'm a firm believer in supporting the community. I love nonprofits. When I'm not busy doing this, I chair a nonprofit too, so I get this part. All right. What I also know is I have members of our community who run businesses here that do have concerns from time to time when large organizations show up, and the perception is that sometimes customers are pulled from their stores to come visit your store by language. All right. The next part of that is, as a nonprofit organization, it's still a business, and I'm hesitant to provide a waiver for a fee, to be very direct, because that fee helps the community, and that's kind of what the fees are for. Okay, and I absolutely respect the need to fill those spots as a nonprofit, but at the same instance, having the community kind of waive the bill on that, I think there's a compromise involved there somewhere along the way. Okay. I'm going to pause my questions in case somebody else has any conversation they like to have as well. But I'd like to come back to this before we finish this conversation. Thank you. Just want to bring that.
Ms. Jones, on the 9 that you had last year, would you know how many of those already had a food truck permit here that didn't have to get a special permit? In other words, I'm assuming this would be just ones that are coming here on a one-time.
I think only 3 of them were from Bell County. The rest were from out of the area. And yes, and I do understand you very well on the brick and mortar businesses, because I was there 13 years, and Stroll, I couldn't open because there were too many food vendors up and down, food trucks up and down the street. However, with our location at Thomas Arnold, if we don't provide some type of food, we don't have any people coming, because they have to have something to eat. We have busloads of kids that come from Houston and hype bands that come from all over the state, and they're not going to leave to come to town. Many of the spectators do, and they do come to town, because I know a lot of them still go to McCain's. If they tell me that's their favorite thing to do when they get into town, is go to breakfast at McCain's. So they do patronize the business. Mm-hmm. They're here long enough that they do patronize the business. My understanding is that they are supposed to, when they file their taxes in whatever state they're in, even if they're out of state, they are supposed to file the local taxes as well. Not necessarily. Texas State Comptroller's website gives you these lines to enter in sales outside of your area. Whether they do that or not, I don't know that anybody's ever enforced that. I don't know if they do that during Stroll. I don't know if they do that on anything. I don't know it. But there is a line item on the Texas Comptroller's website that you pay that's outside of your area.
One interesting thing. Wait, we're still in questions, are we?
Yes. Is there anything you want to add, Alderman? Do you have any questions, Alderman?
No questions.
Okay. So I did some research real quick. Commissioner Whitson sent me a quick message on what he's not responsible for. That's not him, by the way. I just found that out. He says it belongs to the health department, not the commissioner's court. He was quick to let me know that, just so you know. The next part of that is I looked at the last couple of years, tax returns based on that period of time that would show a potential spike based on your message that you sent us and as well as what you heard to the community. And actually it shows the opposite. We actually lost sales tax during that period of time based on vendors and so on and so forth, potentially. Not just them, but in general terms, we actually lost sales tax revenue during that period of time. Just to keep it simple too, for everybody's general knowledge here, just as a reminder, when we collect a fee for the community, that goes to the general fund. The general fund pays for things such as roads, infrastructure type stuff. If I'm missing something, please let me know, Mr. Della Rosa, or correct me. But generally speaking, that's what that pays for. And if you base it on 10, so that's $500 away from our general fund, but it also, I just want to bring that to your attention, okay? That my concern is in the grand scope of it all, and this is my first rodeo as an alderman with everybody here, but what I do know is this. We have to be fair and equitable across the board on all things that we make decisions on as a community, okay? And nonprofits are in that boat too as well, so we have to be very pragmatic in the decision process. And at this point, I am weighing in whether or not I agree with this decision or not. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. I'm going to open it up now for public comments. If anybody wants to speak on this specific agenda item, now is the time to do so. None? Okay. Mr. De La Rosa, historically, with these food trucks coming in, are they, in fact, are we getting tax revenue off these food trucks?
We request copies of their tax certificates when they come in, and it's one of the things that I certainly started doing when we came here. So, historically, the cities that I've served have had a lot of city events, and the state controller's office is known to stop in at vendors, and you must have your sales tax certificate present, or you get a nice citation. Okay, so I don't know about the reporting. I don't handle the business side of how a vendor does things. Yeah, this community doesn't issue event permits. Probably for the last 10 years, event permits have become very commonplace because of incidents when you close road downs or park the roads, and when you have a vehicle that doesn't stop for pedestrians, and you have accidents, active shooter events. So one of the things that always concerns me about any large gathering is that unless you have a logistics plan, an emergency response plan, that's always a concern. Now, I recognize that this is not on city property or state-owned property. This is on school property. So I've not had a conversation with Dr. Novotny. I don't know what their exposure is, whether they require insurance, but that is certainly any incident that occurs at any time. What is your police response? Are you prepared? So one of the reasons that we have event permits because we now notify our police and our fire, well, here we have an ESC, that we're going to have a large gathering, what that potential large gathering may be, right? So we do have venues in town that are private property, that are for profit, that are having up to 4,000 and maybe soon up to 6,000. Those always raise red flags for us when we have one or two police officers on the roadway, right? Then you got to wait for your county sheriff's department to assist if you have an incident, right? So I certainly understand, and when this came up, I had a conversation with some of the aldermen, and again, I recognize that we want citizens coming here, but I think sometime in the future you're going to be addressing how you're going to come to those determinations, private property. It's not very different than the stroll. I had a conversation with the executive director of the chamber. We have the stroll, we have police officers that we pay, and we pay contract officers out there. But it is not a city event, and by a city event meaning that we don't plan the logistics, we have no say in the event, we don't vet the vendors, we don't charge the vendors extra. All of those types of events are now becoming issues for communities all around the United States. When we have an incident, that requires an emergency response. So I think I just want to caution that, over time, we're going to have to look at those response, how we're going to do that. And again, we'll hear more in the future about, some of the recommendations that we may propose. But this is before you now. This is June. This event's going to happen in October. But it gives us time to plan, right? At the end of the day, we, as a city, we always want to respond and be prepared. So whether we select an event permit fee or not, we're still going to respond, and we're just going to be much better prepared for the future. Something there, Alderman.
Manny, do you have any record of the village collecting any permit fees on this event?
In the past, as a matter of fact, up until Ms. Jones mentioned it, I didn't know that we weren't. And Alderman and Mayor, when I look at your ordinances are written in such a manner, it never gave the city administrator any opportunity to deviate from it, including your water and sewer. Mayor, I looked at some ordinances you had me look into. It is very strict. Many communities allow city administrator, right, or the city manager some authority, or with some guidelines, really, because I take your direction from you. But the way many of these ordinances are written, they are not written in that manner, and it quite to the contrary. It says very specifically, in certain cases, it will not be waived. Yeah.
So would it be fair to say that the majority of municipalities that you come into contact with have given the city or village administrator the latitude to exercise best judgment in situations like this?
That is correct, with some guidelines. And the reason being those guidelines are, it depends what the events are, what it is, where they're being held at, how much we're willing to either accept the exposure. And again, all of these are done in communication by the administrator notifying the governing body of what it is, and just to make sure that we're in. But again, you have events that are so commonplace that it becomes that even if the city takes on a burden, and they're usually done with holiday events, Christian holidays, and then you have the non-Christians that oppose it. So I mean, there are some basis for these things, but we just have to be able to, to defend it in court and what case laws have been.
Yeah.
Right. But because you want to be expedient, that's why administrators look at those guidelines, look at you, and follow the industry standards and follow the case laws that are out there.
Do we currently collect any service fees on any other events within the village that you're aware of today?
No, sir.
Whether we're talking strolls,
I'm not aware of any, because you have no.
Serena related, anything like that?
No, sir, no. And again, as you, the practice has been, as I look at events that have been held in the past, you're waiving fees for the utilization of public land. Okay. Now, city council, governing bodies, can make a determination that it is in the community's best interest, and that's the best cover you've got when you get challenged in court. Okay. But lack of a determination, so I'm very good about making sure that you make whatever it is, it's the governing body with no direct benefit to the community, is in violation of the Texas Constitution, the gifting provision.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, those are the kind of things that you get challenged in court by others. Why them, not me? Yeah.
Do we have the ability to go back into our tax records and actually break down November to where it has that Veterans Day weekend to target that particular window of Friday or even Thursday through Sunday of that particular weekend with respect to tax revenue? Because I know we're talking about a period of a month, or maybe even a couple of weeks, but to really target what is or is not taking place during that time frame, plus or minus a couple of days either side. Do we have the opportunity to reflect that revenue during that period and point in time?
As far as I know, and I've dealt with these kind of analysis in the state controller's office and also the reporting agencies, it is not that accurate. It is always within for a month. So, and those are available online.
So that would make those figures, I mean, relatively ambiguous, wouldn't you say, with respect to when the event is actually taking place?
It's always a 30-day window at the state
Yeah.
level. Yes, sir.
Still the question.
All right, I think we've heard enough on that. I'll entertain a motion at this time. Motion. There is
Mayor
no
and
motion on the table.
Alderman, if I may, if you'll take a suggestion, I would suggest that you approve this, but rather than the condition that we get the list of vendors or go through that process, because our online system, when you register, requires payment. That we coordinate this effort with the museum group. They know their vendors, provide us that information. That's all we really need is that information and whatever certificates. They're the clearinghouse. We're just going to be the records manager. And technically, you're approving an event without really issuing a permit, and you're waiving that by determination that I hope you make through your motion. And that way, it's not really in our system. It doesn't skew our numbers why we didn't have a collection when we have an application. And I don't know how that, I've seen our online application system, and it's going to ask you some type of thing or it's not going to process. So I don't want to do it that way, nor do I want it to get frustrated. You know, Ms. Jones would know who her vendors would be. Just give us the listing by the end, have those certificates, and hopefully over time we will get better at how we ask for these sales tax. And quite honestly, sales tax is important. That doesn't mean that the state controller's office won't walk into that property on that day and be asking for tax certificates. That is on them as a business operator, not on the city. Thank you.
Ms. Jones, are you agreeable to that? That you would provide the list of vendors? Okay. With that bit of information, is there a motion?
A motion to approve with the amendment of Ms. Jones and her organization providing us the names of the vendors that participate in the event this year for us to go ahead and manage that process.
Motion to approve by Alderman McDonald. Second by Alderman Hurst. Any more discussion?
Just one piece of discussion. Just most of you in this room are aware of this. I'm the vice president of the museum board, and I'm the other co-chairman of this event, so I will be abstaining from this vote.
Any further discussion?
So are we waiving the fee? Or are we waiving the fee at this time?
And if you could make a determination,
Motion's been made, second. Question's been called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 3 ayes and 1 abstention. Mr. De La Rosa, or I'm sorry, Ms. Bean. Item B, discuss and consider possible action on the ordinance authorizing the issuance of the Village of Salado, Texas Special Assessment Revenue Bond Series 2024 Sanctuary East Public Improvement District Improvement Area Number 1 project. Approving and authorizing an indenture of trust, a bond purchase agreement, a limited offering memorandum, a continuing disclosure agreement, and other amendments and documents in connection therewith, making findings with respect to the issuance of such bonds, providing an effective date. Mr. De La Rosa.
Mayor and Alderman, Christine Lane has already stepped up to the lectern. Not only is she here, but the entire team. If Ms. Lane, if you'll introduce them, that way if they've got any questions for them, they can certainly bring them up. But this is pertains to the Sanctuary East Public Improvement District.
Mayor, Brook Village Board of Aldermen. My name is Chris Lane. I'm with Samco Capital Markets. And for the record, I'm the financial advisor to the village. Today with us, we have the underwriting group with Robert Rodriguez here. Rivera. Sorry. Gregory is in the back of the room. He's the bond counsel on the PIC transaction. Oh, John Snyder is here with P3. I just got back from vacation. I'm not quite back in the swing of things. We priced in the market today 4,710,000 special revenue public improvement. Just as a reminder, this debt is solely the responsibility of those living in the public improvement district, and the village is not responsible and is prohibited from paying any of the debt on these funds. Just as a reminder. Today, we had a lot of good participation in the market in several bond funds. The ones that the bonds were allotted to today went to Goldman Sachs and Nuveen bond funds and several high net worth individuals. These bonds are on a limited offering only to sophisticated investors. So mom and pop type transactions, people cannot buy these bonds. You have to be a sophisticated investor. The true interest cost on these bonds was a 670 today. We, as your financial advisor, double checked all the transaction numbers, and our underwriting team reviewed all the pricing documents and et cetera. If anybody have any questions, the bond counsel is here with all the bond documents that he can go over in detail if you'd like. But it's nice, nighttime reading.
So you mentioned that what happened today was, were bonds sold or were bonds? So what are we doing here? It sounds like we're doing something after the fact.
This is based on, we approved the transaction pending board approval tonight.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we can't approve that.
Well, that's
Everything was run by Manny.
that's what I'm sitting here going, like, wait a second, we haven't even approved this, but yet they're sold.
The underwriter prices it. We review,
Yeah,
your financial
okay.
advisor and underwriting team, we review it. There are all these rules, SEC rules, that require certain things. And we ran everything by Manny earlier today with the caveat that we agree with the pricing pending Board of Aldermen approval tonight.
Right, and you may have said it, but what percent of those bonds were scarfed up today?
All of them.
All of, the whole
All of
4.7 is?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and you said the interest rate was at 6.7?
6.7.
6.7.
And this is, remember, this is the high risk transaction, which is why the interest rate is higher than normal.
So let's say over the next year, Fed drops the rate. How does that affect the bonds if they drop the percentage point down?
They have a 10-year call feature on these bonds. So when we get to that 10-year window, those bonds can be called.
But they have to wait the full 10.
So that percentage is locked in. They can't refinance it.
No,
That drops.
No, not until the call. There was some tax law changes a while ago for that.
And the collateralization on these bonds is the property.
Is the property and the PID assessments on the property and the owners that live in it.
So what hook does the developer have that if they don't sell all this property over 5 years?
Well, the value of the lien, we also have things that we look at when we sell these bonds, and the value of the lien ratio, 3 to 1. So the idea is that it's worth more than what you sold on.
Right. Yeah.
So,
That's the premise. Yeah.
that's the premise. Yeah. So the developer is on the hook for the property he still owns. So any property owner in that PID is responsible for their assessment on it.
Does this assessment in any way affect our bond rating or any rating we have?
No. Now, I'm going to put one caveat there. If you let's say you were a city that had hundreds of these, then maybe, because you're gonna look, just like you have your overlapping taxes for the county and the school district, et cetera, then that becomes part of what they're looking at when you do a bond rating. And we don't have a bond rating. We privately placed everything. So, yes, if you were a city that had hundreds of these, then, that might weigh in there.
Does this in any way affect our bank qualified rate for the year?
No. If you decided to sell bonds before the end of the year, there's a number that we can come up with that they would have to pay the difference between bank qualified versus non-bank qualified if we were planning on issuing money.
Okay, but this 4.7 doesn't play against our $10 million cap for the year.
It does.
Okay.
It does. So if you were going to use more, say you were going to issue 10 million, and you would go over that 10 million, there's a calculation that we would do for the developer to pay the penalty, the difference between the bank qualified versus non-bank qualified.
So don't do anything over 5.3 million, okay?
And we didn't have anything on our radar, so nobody's really worried.
Yeah, but if we wanted to use that bank qualified rate on a fleet
Right,
of
and we
police
do
cars or
that.
something like that, we could still fall within that very comfortably.
Right, we would just discuss that in the.
Do we have any concerns with arbitrage or anything like that with these?
They have to follow the same tax laws.
Do we have that?
No, they do.
So they own now the onus is on them.
Yes, they do. They will have to. The city will hire an arbitrage compliance firm to do that same calculation. But you charge the pit.
We charge the PID for that service.
Because you need to do it yourself. So.
Okay. I'm done. Sorry.
And John, may we also ask the other parties involved? Yeah. John, this is the one that we've been wrangling with that had the 3 or 4 properties that got the past, and here we are now and all that kind of thing, right? Doing this, what impact, and it kind of falls in line with the question that Rodney was having, does it have on what's to follow, which is, of course, the pit for the one across the farm market?
Yeah, so that really has no impact. They're completely separate. They'll be completely separate assessments, completely separate bonds. These are just secured by the Sanctuary East and really just phase 1A and 1B of Sanctuary.
So they truly would be pits that are mutually exclusive, regardless of dollar amounts of either one.
Correct.
All right.
We'll do a quick follow-up, I'm sorry. Are we expecting any more issuance of PID bonds this year on any of the sanctuary projects?
And I'm not expecting any. The Sanctuary East has a future improvement area. It'll be improvement area number 2. That would be after they've effectively developed and sold most of the homes in improvement area 1. So I'm thinking that it's going to take a couple of years to get to that point.
Okay.
And then the other PID, I know they're working on trying to move that forward, but typically it's start to finish, it's about a 6-month process. So I suppose if they came in next week and we started right now, there's a possibility this year, but I think more than likely.
Back to my bank qualified rate question is, I didn't know if there would be another one coming in that would maybe start bumping us up to that ceiling in the future. So just wanted to double check that. Yeah.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to open this up to public comments. If anybody wants to get up and speak on this agenda item. Okay. Mr. De La Rosa, you got anything else to add?
Mayor Pro Tem, we are currently working on the Sanctuary North tract. So I would imagine that we'll have a plat in the next 60 days coming before you. So, and if they build out, it's probably 2 years out before you see another one on that. So it is. So Now, I had the same concerns. I had conversations with Christine before you went on vacation, and the conversation I had with her earlier was she needed to get back to work so she could rest from her vacation. But we did talk about the audit from last year and how we track these things so it doesn't affect us. So we do have these conversations, and I can tell you that some of the conversations I will have with you in the future will consider issuing a debt based on future improvements or purchase of land. So those conversations will be had. And I wanted to make sure that, and I'm familiar with the bond ratings and going through that, so, and again, to remind you, I worked with Christine back in 2011, so.
One more thing I do want to mention, especially because I know Rodney really looked at these audits. This is not on your balance sheet. This is a note to your financials. And we need to be careful about that because I've had a city get that in their audit wrong, and it's a whole nightmare trying to get that correct. So just FYI, and Manny knows this. When you get your draft audit in, I'd like to see it right. So it's better to catch that kind of stuff early and try to correct it. Right.
Okay. Manny, is there any special way this has to be approved? Does this have to all be read, or does this?
No, so you're on a timeline. When we move forward, this is the 11th hour and 30 minutes into it already.
Okay.
Any more questions? You got anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
If there's no further questions, I'm going to open this up. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2024-05 as written pursuant to PID number 1 of the sanctuary development.
That's, Alderman Graham, you're reading C, you're on B.
Oh, did I do the wrong one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my apologies. So what's the ordinance number on that one?
There's no.
It is 2024-07.
Got it. Thank you very much. And then that states 2024-07, everything else being the same in the original. Thank you.
Motion made by Alderman Graham to approve. Second by Alderman Hurst. Any other discussion?
Question.
Question has been called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Being that passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item
travel.
C,
Safe travel.
Bye, Greg.
Item C, discuss and consider possible action on approving ordinance number 2024-05, an ordinance of the Village of Salado, Texas, providing for the imposition of a lien on an owner's property other than homestead or rental property after notice for delinquent bills for utility service to the property. Findings of fact, effective date, repealer, severability clause, and proper notice and meeting. Mr. De La Rosa.
Mayor and Alderman, you had the first reading last month. This ordinance will allow me to file a lien on a property that owes us for a sewer connection, roughly about $9,000. If the property goes to sell and we don't collect or have a lien, we're liable to not collect those funds. So this just protects the village's long-term interest by filing a lien if they are unable to pay their debt to the village upfront. It's my recommendation you approve it. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to open this up to public comments. Anybody got anything they want to add? Well, once. All right. Anybody have any questions for Mr. De La Rosa?
Manny, I know at one point in time when the sewer line was being opened up and things were being connected, there was a point in time where there was a level of election in terms of whether a person elected to be connected to it or not. And I know we've been working with our engineers in terms of who is and who is not connected to the sewer and all that good stuff. Approving this ordinance, does that in any way put us in a conflict of interest for anything that has not been connected to the sewer in its normal course of path, if you will.
No, sir, there's a 2018 ordinance and a 2016 ordinance that addresses the wastewater connection and the requirements. It also it provides the penalties and enforcement section. It is non-waiving, but it does say that you must connect and there's these requirements, right? And it provides for proceedings, and I take it to be civil action. But that would require, the way I read it, it requires your approval. This is something that we fronted, paid for, and we're owed money, not a wastewater bill.
And because of that relationship, it stands on its own merit.
It stands on its own
I
merit.
understand.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any more questions? Okay, open it up for a motion.
Make the motion to recommend approval as written.
Second?
Motion made by Alderman McDonald, seconded by Alderman Graham. Any further discussion?
Question?
Question has been called. All in favor of approval of the ordinance 2024-05 as written, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0, Ms. Bean. Next item is first reading of ordinance number 2024-06, an ordinance of the Village of Salado, Texas, providing for regulations to and concerning camping and providing findings of fact, effective date, repealer, severability clause, and proper notice and meeting. Mr. Del Rosa.
This ordinance is to be proactive. We do not have a problem with camping or encampments currently, but we do have individuals around town that could pose to be an issue. We've also had people underneath the bridge doing graffiti and that kind. So depending on who the transient folks are, I would like to propose that we be proactive, that we adopt an ordinance. It's applicable throughout the city, on all public lands, meaning village or state-owned, and that we provide signage where we need to discourage camping or any type of encampment setup on public lands.
All right, I'm going to open it up for public comments. Anybody have any comments on this agenda item? I sure are quiet tonight. Wow. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Del Rosa?
I do, Mayor. Mr. Del Rosa. So, for example, I drove around the community areas, and for example, in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, folks visiting the community stopped off the highway just to kind of visit. They were parked in Pace Park, basically, with I would say a real small version of a Class C camper. At which point in time, Mr. and Mrs. Donahue, for example, got out, sat on the park bench, and made their lunch and enjoyed the area. So what I'm getting to is they did not stay the night for any measure at the park by all means, right? This does not prohibit people like that coming in just enjoying their lunch in our community. Is that correct?
That is correct. Now that your mobile trailer hooked up to the vehicle,
Yes.
it's when the trailer's disconnected, the barbecue pit comes out, the awning goes up, and that may not even be an issue until about 10 p.m. When you shouldn't be in the park area, or we'll revisit those park rules again. That's going to come next soon. But yes, people are free to traverse, bring their RVs home, and have a good day during the daytime. You could put up a pop-up tent to keep out of the sun.
Right.
It's camping, and we will monitor. And we'll be able to determine whether it's just you're there for a little while or you're really camping.
Okay. Next question, and I'm looking over this and I read this through, but just for public comment and so forth. So in other words, if a local youth group wanted to camp out in Pace Park overnight and have an event, how would we go about allowing something to that effect?
And most likely the request would be made to the city offices. It would make it to my attention and say that it was on a Wednesday and says, hey, we're going to be there Friday. I will send you an email that says, hey, I've got a request, it's the local Boy Scouts or the Scouts of America or whoever that group may be, and unless I hear any objection, I will be approving this the next day. And I tend to give you overnight to respond. So,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Del Rosa, for answering my questions.
I don't know that that would be necessary, man, to reach out to us. If we pass an ordinance to do that, and the ordinance is in place, people can call in or
and I
write
can
in.
put that provision in there, but this doesn't allow, it says that parking or camping is allowed with the owner. I'm just your representative. You are the authority. So, I mean, I can have the city attorney add verbiage, do something to that effect, or a consultation with y'all just to get it done,
No, that's more money. We're willing to do that.
Okay. Then I will make that change with that comment, Mayor, if there's no objection, then
We're good where it stands. Thank you, Mr. Del Rosa.
Okay, that was the first reading, so with no action required.
No action.
We'll move on to the next agenda item.
Yeah.
Item E, first reading of the ordinance number 2024-08, an ordinance of the Village of Salado, Texas, amending ordinance number 2017.07, establishing regulations relating to the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages within the village limits, repealing ordinance number 2017.07, and providing findings of fact, effective date, repealer, severability clause, and proper notice and meeting. Mr. Del Rosa.
Okay, well, I've been listening to every time we have these alcohol beverage permits come up before you. I actually went back and read the ordinances, about 3 of ordinances. So at one time, you allow for permits, for the establishment when it was voted in to have alcohol. Several years later, you allow for the permit issuance of a city permit along with the state. So somewhere along the way, you were having sometimes public hearings based on distance requirements, or if it was too close to someplace, or just because you wanted to know. So there was no real precedent for it. You've been doing it. So, but the interesting part was you did have an ordinance that said, hey, about 4 or 5 years ago, city permits are required. But you didn't set the process for it or the fee structure for it. You didn't adopt the state statute. You didn't make reference to it in your city ordinance. Okay? So it makes it a little difficult. You don't know who was going to do it. So this is a little bit more comprehensive. We didn't repeal it because we left public hearings only required if a requester is wanting a waiver from the distance requirements from a school, church, or something like that that falls into that category. Other than that, no public hearing would be required. So I've heard some comments. I've looked at this. I said there's none, but I certainly believe that you should have a city permit requirement and that you should collect 1/2 of the state fee in accordance with state law if you choose to collect it. And here's where you have some teeth. Currently, the only establishment I can think of, the only subdivision I can think of, Rock Creek is situated behind the Barton House. The Barton House is commercial. What if all of a sudden it becomes a bar and grill and they're open to 2 a.m.? That close proximity may one day realize that we need to revisit how we issue permits in close proximity or neighborhood services, right? So again, that's just an example. But say that you have an establishment that has problems with patrons or the business owner doesn't stop serving and our police have to respond, right? If they're responding and they continue to be a nuisance, a police officer will be able to remove that city permit off the wall and you're effectively shut down. That gets your attention. The reason cities do conditional use permits on the issuance, and you don't have that provision, that's kind of what public hearings are for, is when it comes up for renewal, and it does come up for renewal because these things run about a 2-year period at the state level. So what I did was I made sure that our city permit would run concurrent with the state. There is anybody that has a current TABC license today would not have to get a city permit until it comes up for renewal. But you must provide us your TABC information so we'll know when it comes up for renewal or you're in violation of the ordinance. right? In other words, we're seeking voluntary compliance, but if not, this ordinance will have teeth for us to be able to do our job, right? So we are letting people submit an application. It'll be signed. We'll review for the distance requirements. The city secretary will sign off because that's the authority under the state statute, and we move forward, and everybody can move along. If they become problematic, then I'm sure that we would bring it back to hopefully amend the ordinance as necessary. But this would certainly give a lot more freedom, and this collection of one-half the state fee is not paid by our citizens. It's a user fee, right? The business collects it from the patrons desiring to have those beverages. So it's passed on to the consumer.
Any questions today?
All right. I'll open it up for public comments on this agenda item. Any? All right, that's the first reading again, no action required. Item F, discuss and consider possible action on authorizing the number of budgeted positions for the tourism department from 2 full-time employees to 1 full-time and 2 part-time employees. Mr. De La Rosa.
Okay, you might, Ms. Whitman's here, and she'll be able to give you some information. But the reason we wanted to do this was, after the departure of our former manager, and when we had 2 employees, a manager and a visitor centers coordinator, and we were looking, and I interviewed in late November. I attended the Christmas stroll, and conversations that I had with some aldermen, some citizens was about the visitor center, that it's not manned all the time, it's not manned on Sundays. There are certain times of the year that it may be important that we have somebody there Friday and Saturday, Sunday, much more than weekdays. So I wanted that flexibility without adding a lot of staff. We were operating from about 8 to 4, 8 to 5, something like that. If some of you travel and you really get up at 8 a.m. and go visit a visitor center, or it's closer to after breakfast, about 9, 10 a.m. So we can have some flexibility here. So I thought that maybe we should have 1 manager and 2 part-times, and those 3 could work that schedule out. Okay. So what we did is we stayed within the same salaries that were appropriated for those 2 positions, and managed to be able to bring on 3 folks within that same, there was an increase in, don't get me wrong, in the manager. But the visitor centers coordinator could certainly go from a full-time to part-time. And it actually, as Ms. Whitson indicated, we didn't have anybody there. We did hire a part-timer, but she was hired as a seasonal, means no benefits. We were waiting until we had a permanent full-time manager to determine whether she wanted to keep that seasonal, make her the part-time, and we've not hired another part-time until if you decide to approve this, then we can make an adjustment to the appropriations. As the governing body, you appropriate funds, but you also allocate the number of budgeted positions. If it says there's 2 employees there, and even if you have the funds, it doesn't change to 3 until you authorize that. So I wanted to make that clear. And appropriations is different from the number of budgeted positions, and we're asking for a change in that number of budgeted positions at this time. And Ms. Whitson can add in anything on this.
And just to kind of clarify too, the 2 part-time employees would make up as 1 person. So it still give us 3 people, so we could still rotate their shifts where as needed, and then just still be paying really for 1 full-time employee.
And this still provides you the coverage and flexibility you need to do pursuant to your position description, right?
It'll help a lot, yeah. Then I have 2 people there, so when one person's not there, the other one is, so I can stay with what I need to do, and they can send the people coming in.
Okay. And dollar amount wise, I know we're talking about appropriations, we're talking about authorizations in terms of numbers, but numbers changing, dollar signs,
Yeah,
down
yeah,
saying,
the appropriations for the full-time, it's still within the same, compensation rate. So other than, and because they're part-time, once they hit 20 hours, that means they're working 1,000 hours, they'll qualify for retirement benefits, and so everything will be prorated on a part-time, 20-hour basis.
so our savings on this, coming back to the dollar, right? Our savings on this are in terms of the benefits because of the halftime employment, is that right?
Well, yeah. We benefit there because we actually get better coverage. We didn't benefit when we made a change in compensation based on industry standards for the manager's compensation. The fund is healthy, and I know a lot of folks look at the motel funds, right? And they think, well, let's spend it. No, there's 9 categories. It's a 2-pronged test. It's very specific. And there may be future needs in the future that we may need those funds. So it wasn't the idea, let's just create another full-time and do that coverage. It's
Right.
that we need to be much more efficient in how we manage our staff.
And then having the 2 employees that make up for 1, we still don't have to pay any benefits. There's no benefits.
There's no medical, only retirement and the workers' comp straight, but not the, well, no, they would still qualify for vacation and sick time at the half rate. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll open it for public comments. Anybody have any comments to make on this agenda item? No. Anybody have any other questions for Mr. De La Rosa? Thank you. Any or for Ms. Whitson? No? No. All right, I will entertain a motion at this time.
Make a motion that we approve the authorization of a number of budgeted positions for the tourism department from 2 full-time employees to 1 full-time and 2 part-time employees, making that adjustment on the remaining roster as recommended.
Motion was made by Alderman Graham. Any second? Seconded by Alderman Hurst. Any further discussion?
Question?
Question has been called. All in favor for approval as written, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Ms. Dean. Item G, discuss and consider possible action on authorizing the addition of 1 full-time employee to the police department staffing. I believe that's going to be Chief Fields.
Mayor, Alderman, normally this request would be voiced during the budgetary process. But we have a opportunity to place a young man in the police academy, and the academy starts before the next budgetary year. We've currently only authorized 8 individuals. We are at full staff 8 individuals. However, our 8th individual was not hired until April the 29th. So we have budgetary money from October through April the 29th that were unused because that position was unfilled. What I propose is that if you are going to grant, I was going to ask for another body in the fiscal year 2025 budget that starts in October this year. With that being said, I'm seeking approval to put an individual in a police academy now and use the funds that were unused from Officer Gatewood's full-time position for approximately 7 months. Now, when we place somebody in the academy, I'm a huge proponent of this, mainly because I don't get to give an individual a job. I get to give an individual I get to open a career path. So with that being said, we have identified an individual. Next one. We have identified an individual by the name of Mark Tebow, 36-year-old military veteran. He is also a Salado resident. Former Sergeant First Class in the United States military. He is retired, and he came to me and we spoke about not only, actually he came to Sergeant Dungy first, and he also came to me and we spoke about not only serving his country, but how he can transition into serving his community as well. That was approximately 3 months ago. We slow rolled on a background investigation just because we didn't have a position open. Well, the further we got into this background and the further we learned more about this young man, I would really like the opportunity to bring him onto my staff. If it is possible that we were going to be authorized 9 officers in the next upcoming budget, I propose that we use some of the unused funds that we have from Officer Gateway's position that was filled on April the 29th to pay his salary while he's in the academy. Officer Gateway's position is a full position, $58,000 a year. The academy cadet pay is $17.50 an hour. There are 8 pay periods remaining between now and the end of this fiscal year. So that'll put about $11,200 of the $28,990 that we did not pay out to Officer Gateway's position. So with that being said, that's the proposal.
So,
Chief, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, let me add, Mayor and Alderman, I did want the chief to stress to you that your decision tonight is an obligation that you're going to carry into fiscal year 2025. That was 1.2. Your chief has been working many hours at night, after hours, because we don't have enough personnel, or our personnel have issues that takes them away from work, health issues that we need to resolve, which means that we don't have the staffing. With that being said, as much as I don't like doing these things mid-year, for you to be able to provide the 24-hour service, you almost need that extra person just because you need to be able to rotate. And I know that we're doing that now because of what that one officer. Without getting into a bind, you're almost needing this just to maintain that level of service.
We had plans in the short term to build out to 10 full or 10 FTEs anyway, didn't we?
Yes.
I mean, I remember that conversation, so this is right in glide path with that.
It is, yeah, but without seeing any numbers, right? And or what other obligations? I just wanted you to make sure that you're going to be married to this decision for a while.
Well, I think the last budget discussions that we had about another full-time, or another 2 full-time officers last year. Yeah. And somehow one of those got eliminated. Even though the board approved it, it got eliminated in the budget after it was voted on. So, additional officer chief, can you just speak to what that's going to do? Well, I know if somebody calls out sick or whatever, things happen, you're having to come in and work those
I will
additional
tell you
hours.
this. The sheriff's office sent us a letter, I would say probably October-ish of last year, that indicated that due to their staffing needs, they were not going to be able to cover the Village of Salado when we did not have 24-hour coverage. They would send an officer for an emergency, but if it was not an emergency, then we would have to place an officer in an on-call status, and they would have to respond from their residence. If you remember correctly, just prior to that, I made a commitment that we're not going to rely on the sheriff's office. We should be self-reliant. So we went to 24-hour coverage. We've maintained 24-hour coverage since the beginning of October. There are times when that is challenging. I can tell you that I came to work on one day here recently, 6:30 in the morning, 2:30 in the afternoon, I found out that my night shift officer wasn't going to be able to come in. So I had Sergeant Dungy cover the city while I went home, took a 3-hour nap, came back at 6 p.m. and worked another 12 hours. That's what we do to cover the city. I can tell you that our overtime budget has been decimated. Overtime was authorized, I believe, 10,000. We're over 10,000 in overtime already. Why? I had an officer break her ankle on a off-duty camping trip with her family. That's not covered. But I still have to cover my shift. Another incident that happened, and it's more of an officer safety issue than it is anything else. There are some nights when we only have one officer that works. This particular night, Officer Bolton was working. She had an individual down at the intersection of Royal and Main that was less than cooperative. She called for backup. Took the deputy 25 minutes. I can tell you that I could have responded from my house. I live in a house. I could have responded from my house in less than 25 minutes. I don't want one of my officers getting hurt. I don't want to overburden the taxpayers either with an excessive staff. And that's what I'm not trying to ask for two. I'm not asking for three. I would love 2 to 3. I'm asking for 1. And I planned on asking for them in the October fiscal year budget. However, with that being said, again, this opportunity has presented itself. I believe Mr. Trudeau is a valid candidate. And should we not be able to place him into this upcoming academy, the next academy starts in January. That's a long time to give a man to. It's a long time for a man to have to be on hold. He lives in town, he wants to serve it.
Chief, for logistics sakes, kind of, Cadet Manning, is he part of the 8 that you
Yes, sir.
currently have?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so he's kind of in that mix
Yes, sir.
already. So when he comes on board, we're already paying him, and I'm sure there's a lift there when he moves from cadet onto
Yes, sir, and that was
Full-time.
calculated in the.
right. So I'm I'm one that threw out 2 years ago that, hey, I want to be a 10. I want to be there. And I think that's what it's going to take to cover it. And so I'm all on board with this. I think this is a great opportunity. I think taking them through the academy and basically raising them the way you want them.
And I don't want this to sound bad when I say this. I don't. Prior to me becoming the chief, the department only hired certified officers. That means they had to have gone to an academy themselves and had never worked as an officer and came here, or most likely they either got run off, decided to leave, or retired and came here. Retirees have walkaway power. And I can tell you retirees have walkaway power because when I first got here, I had an individual tell me that I'm not working midnight shift. I'm retired from XYZ police department. I've done my time on that. Well, just like you're not working. So with that being said, at the end of that shift, he decided he no longer was there. Retirees have walkaway power.
Yeah.
When you give a gentleman a career, we also have them sign an agreement saying that they will commit to us for 4 years. If they leave within the first year, they have to pay 100% back of whatever we have established into their, or whatever we have paid into their education. If they leave after 2 years, they have to pay back 50. If they leave after 3 years, they have to pay back 25. So we have a commitment from an individual for about 4 years. So that gives us our bang for the buck. Now, I will tell you that the individual that we're looking at hiring, he purchased a house in town. He lives in the city limits. He's committed to this village. So I'm pretty sure we got him for as long as we want.
Another thing I'd like to add on getting somebody, especially at that age, at 36 years old, that's coming out of military as a retiree and looking to start a second career. You're not dealing with somebody who comes in from another department and they're bringing their bad habits with them.
Right.
You're able to kind of coach them up from the academy into here in the field training program and teach them the way that you want things done. So you're able to mold that individual. And this is not some 21-year-old kid that's coming out here looking to thump skulls. He's here to, because he's will to do the right thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have a very robust field training program. And I also have individuals that, with our organization, that teach in the academy as well. So we have a stake in the product that comes out of that academy. Like I said earlier, Sergeant Dungy teaches firearms. He's a firearms instructor with BPOC, through the BPOC. I teach ethics, and it's a good academy that people come out of. We get a good product out of that academy.
All right. Any further questions for Chief? No. All right. Thank you, Chief. At this time, I'm going to open it up for public comments. Anybody have anything they'd like to add to this? Nope. All right. Anybody have any questions for Mr. De La Rosa? Andy, have anything else you want to add to that?
Yes.
No?
Mayor, I got a question real quick for Mr. Davis. What's this gonna cost as far as for the community, as far as what is the payroll for this? I saw it's $17.50, but for clarity moment, what is this a yearly salary once this person completes the academy and so forth?
Yeah, that'll be a question for the chief. He's more.
Sorry, Chief,
Yeah.
I probably should have.
Current budgetary implications, while they're in the academy, they get paid $17.50 an hour.
Understood.
$1,400 of pay period. Once they graduate from the academy,
Yes.
they go to $58,000. It comes out to $27.87 an hour. So there's a $10 an hour bump when they come out of the academy.
Thank you, Chief.
And I apologize for not knowing. Actually, the department directors are having to communicate with the city accountants to learn their budgets.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, that's why. There's an expectation there, but thank you.
Don't make me cry.
Any more questions? For Mr. De La Rosa?
No, I'm thinking,
No? All right. Anybody have a motion?
I have a motion to approve as written.
Motion made by Alderman McDonald to approve as written, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bell. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question has been called.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, can I just make a real quick comment? I am one member of a board of four, mayor, but I would really encourage you to consider with Cadet Manning and the new cadet, that will be your 8-9, but budget for a full-time. I think we need to budget for a full-time position to get to 10 as we had planned on doing all along. So I would, my feelings, my discussion, I would like to see that now.
Yeah.
Okay. Motion was called and seconded, and question was called. So all in favor of approving one additional full-time employee to the police department, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0, Ms. Dean. Item H, discuss and consider possible action on purchasing of police patrol vehicles, plural. Chief Fields. Let me just take a seat right there.
Mm-hmm.
Got a feeling this is going to be a little bit more in-depth discussion. Give you a little background on our current police fleet prior to going into what we would like to request. Currently, we have 5 patrol units, 1 command staff vehicle. The command staff vehicle, 2011 Ford F-150, 13 years old, 146,000 miles. We have a 2018 Ford F-150, 6 years old, 78,000 miles. Both of those vehicles are not PPV vehicles. They're not police package vehicles. They are civilian model pickup trucks. So they don't have, sometimes they don't have the capabilities of a police package vehicle. We do have 2 2020 Chevy Tahoes. They are 4 years old. One has 56,000 miles. The other has 70,000 miles. I can tell you that they have average, moderate wear and tear. We've had to replace brakes. We've had to replace rotors. We've had to replace tires, things like that. But those are normal wear and tear that we expect to have to replace. And then we also have 2 22 Dodge Durangos. Durangos were purchased prior to my arrival. I can tell you that They're not really as big as you think they are. Again, 2 years old, one 16,000 miles, one 4,000 miles. The reason one has 4,000 miles is because it came back from the upfitters and it was not correct. So it was sent back. I sent it back. And then it came back from the upfitters and it wasn't correct. So I sent it back. So that's why that one has well less. Same year, took delivery of them at the same time. One was upfitted properly, one was not upfitted properly. So I kept sending it back until it was upfitted properly. With the addition of Officer Gatewood and Officer Manning, they will have to share vehicles. I can tell you that in my years of being in law enforcement, my years of being in law enforcement, you have pool vehicles and you have individually assigned vehicles. When vehicles are individually assigned, they last longer. They have lower mileage on them. Maintenance costs aren't as high. Officers have a greater sense of ownership in the vehicle, which means they take care of it better. More efficient when we change shifts, i.e., I don't have to have one officer spending 15, 20 minutes pulling all of their gear, their guns, their bags out of their office so that another officer can come in and replace it. And having a vehicle that is individually assigned to you increases morale within the department. If we choose not to do that and we decide to have a pool vehicle, those vehicles last between 3 to 5 years. They take more wear and tear. Your warranty items, i.e. your mileage, expires earlier. There's more fatigue on moving parts within the vehicle because it is being operated, in this particular case, possibly 24 hours straight. You have more maintenance costs because you're going to go through tires faster. You're going to go through oil changes faster. You're going to have the potential of having catastrophic failure with any one of the major parts. And officers are less likely to take ownership in those vehicles. When I say less likely to take ownership in those vehicles, I will give you a story of a place that I have worked before. Officers who had individual assigned vehicles were always washed, vehicles were taken care of. Individuals took that vehicle to the residence. If they went past their oil change limit, they were no longer allowed to have a take-home vehicle. If they were seen operating without a seatbelt, they were no longer allowed to have a take-home vehicle. So we also had, at that particular department, we also had pool vehicles, which is the cars that when you come to work, you're like, hey, what are you driving tonight? I don't know what's available. You don't know what you're getting when you get into that car. I don't know if the individual in front of me hit a curb and now I have a front end wobble. I don't know if I have bald tires on that car. It's just going to be what I get to drive that night. There's a lot less ownership and a lot more, not my problem, that's the way I found it. That's a bad situation to be in, especially when you're talking about the price of some of these vehicles. I will tell you that I am not well versed in negotiating with lease purchase contracts. I'm not well versed in that. For the last 7 years prior to being here, I was a fleet manager. I purchased vehicles for the city that I wasn't in. I was used to somebody coming to me and saying, $245,000. I need 4 vehicles, fully upfitted, come in under budget. And I would find a way to come in under budget. I don't have that luxury. We're looking at, but I will give you a couple of options. The first option is we enter into a lease purchase agreement on 2 Chevy Silverado pickup trucks. The reason I chose Chevy Silverado pickup trucks is because they are PPV vehicles. They are police package vehicles. And we don't have a public works department. Our guys pick up deer on the side of the road and transport them out to legal disposal so that they can be taken care of. Our guys respond to move barricades. It's difficult to move a barricade when you're driving the Dodge Durango. The only way to do it is have the barricade hang 3-4 feet out one of the passenger side window or the driver's side window. It's not effective. It's not efficient. Sometimes Renee can help us out. There are times when she's here. But with that being said, there are times when we have to take care of things ourselves as well. Moving tree limbs out of the roadway. That's why I chose the pickup truck. Through Sains, the trucks are $53,280. The upfitting, police package equipment that goes in them, light bars, push bumpers, lights, cages, prisoner partitions, other things that we have that need to go in the vehicles is another $22,528. So that brings the price of that unit to $75,958. If we went through American National Leasing Company, which that was the company that we leased the 2020 Tahoe from. I came to know them, Mr. Jess Rathke. I came to know him because I inquired, why are we paying interest on stuff that we need to get rid of now? And if you remember, I came to you and we paid those two vehicles off early, saved about $600 in interest. So that's when I met him. So he worked this deal up. $75,958 times 2 is the $151,916. It would be three annual payments of $28,680 with a final payment of $1. The $1 could be added into the third year payment, so you're looking at 3 payments on the lease. At that particular point, we actually own the vehicle, no more payments after that. That would be for one. If we went with 2, that goes up significantly, $57,000 sometimes. Option number 2 is to purchase one of those police package trucks, and then to also purchase a used 2021 Chevy Tahoe. I made contact with a company down in Hempstead, Texas. They specialize in police package vehicles that have been turned in at the end of their original lease. The particular vehicle that I looked at is like I said, a 2021 Chevy Tahoe. It was a command staff vehicle. It has 25,000 miles on it, which is on average about 8,500 miles a year. This is not a vehicle that was used on patrol. This is a vehicle that was driven by a chief of police. This is a vehicle that was driven by a captain. This is a vehicle that was probably driven from home to work and from work back there. The price on the vehicle is $53,000, a little bit over $52,000 and some change, $52,430, and it comes already upfitted with everything except a radio, a radar, and a prisoner partition. So it already has all of the overhead lights. It already has all of the warning equipment, sirens, already in it for that same price. There would still be some additional customer supplied equipment, i.e. radio, radar, in-car partition, in-car cameras, and prisoner partition. That's the pictures of the white Tahoe that you have there. And then the third option, which is what I'm leaning mostly towards, is enter into agreement on one of those Chevy Tahoes, or pardon me, one of those Chevy Silverados for the lease purchase option. The second vehicle, we wait until October. I have crunched the numbers on my budget. There are several items in my budget that I'm well below what was expected. And I believe we could pay cash for that vehicle in October with surplus that we have not used in this particular budget. That would give me 2 vehicles, but we would only be on the hook for one of those over the next 3 years, since that vehicle would be paid cash. Cash would be paid for that vehicle. And looking at the line item budget, 6215.1, I believe it is. 6215.1 under PD technology. There was originally $50,000 placed in there because we were going to get a new police department and we would need computers and we needed IT for inside the new police department. It doesn't appear that we're going to be getting a new police department between now and October. So there's $50,000 allocated in the budget that is unused. Matter of fact, $1,200 of it because we had to have some cat cable run at the police department. So there's going to be surplus in the budget. So I propose that we enter into a lease agreement for one Chevy Silverado police package vehicle, fully upfitted, and then we wait until October and purchase outright a second vehicle out of proceeds, out of unused. So, and those unused, I'm sorry, so yeah.
Sure.
So those unused funds would, let me put it this way, the price, the $53,430 for the Tahoe would come out, would be the difference, if you will, of those funds you're just referring to.
Yes, sir. The funds that I was referring to, one of the accounts, like I said, is 6215 1.1
Yeah.
for PD technology. The account has 50,000 in it. We've used $1,109.
You know, it's likely that we'll go ahead and increase the police department budget. I don't want to make any assumptions again, like Rodney was saying. I'm just one guy out here. It's likely we'll increase it, but you know, we're also talking about increasing an additional position, which would be 58. So then there's 58, and now here's 53,430. I'm not saying no. I just want to make sure that the numbers all line up.
This is the cost of doing business. This is another tool for a police officer to use.
And to be honest with you, Alderman, the reason I choose this one is because it doesn't put us on the hook for more further down the road. This puts us on the hook for one vehicle 3 years further down the road. I think we run into a problem. This is my opinion. I think we run into a problem when we look at financing business 3 and 4 years down the road, because I don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. I come here in, matter of fact, this is my work anniversary. Literally today is my 1 year work anniversary. I come here June of last year and I get 2 Dodge Durangos that I owe $59,000 on that I can't fit in. But that's an issue. Yes, sir.
Here's where my questions come in, and I got a few, but I'll just go down the list. First and foremost, we're purchasing those Durangos, are we leasing them?
They are a lease purchase, same as these here.
Okay.
You make 3 payments, and then at the end of those 3 payments, you have a choice. You can turn it in, or for $1, you can purchase it and it becomes your property.
Understood. I'm just asking the generalized question, and it's going to go both sides of this. Do we have the ability to back out of that lease and stop spending money? So where it's a committed lease. I'm asking the question.
It is a committed lease. The interest rates are fixed. If you pay it ahead of time, you still pay the full amount you owe.
So we're functionally married to these vehicles that at this point are difficult to maneuver in.
It's those terms there. So this is about a 6% or 6.5%, and that is based on your prior payment.
Understood. Yeah. All right. My next piece would be, does that kills that conversation? Are there any grants out there in the state of Texas to help us along the way with this conversation? Or have we researched anything out there that might be available?
No, and SITCOG would be the agency that you would be applying to these grants, and they're very competitive. If you're not participating in a lot, it goes through a criteria selection. So if you're not actively involved in the Council of Governments, chances of you getting a grant in small cities don't fare well because they're not members of those committees, and that is just the way that it's operates.
And I can tell you from experience that the last time I appeared before the Council of Governments on a grant, they had $1.7 million worth of requests and $400,000 to be out. So.
Okay. The next part is, you already touched on it, Alderman, about the surplus already. And then just an administrative note that I just want to go forward on and just say this out loud. I understand that it's not okay sometimes to share vehicles. I absolutely understand. Okay. But I also understand PMCS and taking care of those vehicles. If we're in a situation where, for example, we don't have what you call a public works department to kick the tires, change oils, that we're doing at our own. By the way, are we doing that individually, or are we taking that to a service, or part of our services?
We take that to Johnson Brothers.
So we take it to Johnson Brothers, we give them a vehicle, we give them a check, and they give us back a new oil, new tires, vehicle kind of deal, right? Market value, basically, we're not getting any breaks on that, are we? No. All right. So where I'm getting to is, sometimes having your own vehicle is a reward for good work. I use that language pretty simply. You kind of touched on it already yourself. I'm not opposed to getting vehicles. I'm not. But what I am looking at is I'm cautiously optimistic on how we're managing the fleet that we have. We've already established, not under your care, but we already established that we have 2 vehicles that very best are difficult to maneuver in. And so I just want to be the right amount of caution moving forward before approving this kind of a purchase this early before the budget year. I just want you to understand where I'm at, Chief.
And the reason I bring this up now, and not during the budgetary process, the first payment is not due for 1 year after you sign it. So that gives the same time to, matter of fact, the Silverado truck that I'm inquired about and spoke to them about is currently being built. Then it will be sent to their dealership, at which time once they receive, they'll send it to Dana Supply to get up to them. So with that being said, this isn't anything that's going to affect the budget absolutely right now. It will affect the budget a year down the road after it's signed and sent forward.
I understand that, Chief. I'm just trying to make sure that we don't overspend taxpayers' money.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chief, for answering my question.
Chief, on the financing piece, is there an option for 4 years? I know the rate would be higher.
Yes, there is an option. There actually is an option for 4 or 5 years. And I believe you have a copy of that. If it was financed for 3 years, it's $28,680. If it's financed for 4 years, it's $22,173. If it's financed for 5 years, it's $18,278 or $279. So you do get a little break in the monthly or the annually, but you're married to it for a lot longer.
You are married to it a lot longer. I think the 3-year deal for us, though, what I'd like to see you maybe put in place, kind of tagging off what Alderman McDonald was talking about, was coming up with a solid rotation process to where, with them buying 2 and then 2, and then you got others sitting out there that are a lot older, like what you're in. I think, if we were to do this cash out, the older one now, seeing how the other one is in arrears till next year, you're not going to make that first payment till then. That might help put the rotation into a better.
And to be 100% honest with you, sir, there are several trains of thought on rotating those vehicles.
Right.
The agency that returned to Tahoe is obviously an agency that says we're going to lease it for 3 years and when it's done, we're going to turn it back in. Doesn't matter how many miles it has on it, doesn't matter how much money we put into it, we're going to turn it back in. I have seen agencies that say we're going to keep it, we're going to do our vehicle rotations at 100,000 miles. At 100,000 miles, no matter what shape the vehicle is in, we're going to get rid of it. I can tell you that personally, in my opinion, when the cost of keeping the vehicle is more than it's time to replace it.
Yeah.
146,000 miles on my vehicle is a lot of miles. It's 13 years old. But that is the result of being a command staff vehicle only operated by one individual.
Yeah.
2018 Ford, that was not a command staff vehicle. That was a patrol vehicle. 6 years, 78,000 miles. That doesn't sound like a lot, but I can tell you that vehicle has been in the shop for over $4,000 just since I've been here. Engine work, not routine maintenance, engine work. So, to say, well, the 2011 is the oldest, we need to get rid of it first. Let me tell you something, the 2011 is a whole lot better than that 2018. I have a whole lot less costs associated with maintaining that 2011 than I do that 2018.
Off the top of your head, how much money have you spent under your tenure just doing maintenance and repair that were beyond the normal wear and tear, to your knowledge?
I do know that on the 2018 Ford F-150, we've done over $4,000 on top end engine repair.
Mm-hmm.
The left, they rebuilt the left side of the engine.
Mhm.
We got it back. 3 months later, we had to rebuild the right side of the engine. We got it back, and then 3 months later, we had to build the right side of the engine again because a non-warranty part had gone out. At that point, that becomes a problem. Keeping that vehicle becomes a problem. I've isolated that vehicle down to one officer. Officer Ferguson drives that vehicle. Me and Officer Ferguson have had a long conversation about, you may not get another vehicle. We need to take care of it. We need to drive it like it's a civilian vehicle. I hate to say that. But again, with that being said, that is one of the biggest expenses that we have is the 2018.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm just wondering that in this, would we be better off to look at a 23 and a 24, not a 22?
Well, I can look at whatever they have there. The reason I looked at the 2021 Tahoe was that it had 25,000 miles on it. There were some vehicles there that were 22 that had 44,000, 45,000 miles. If we're going to, and again, 100% my opinion, if we are going to assume a 3-year-old vehicle, at least that 3-year-old vehicle comes with a 5-year, 100,000 mile powertrain warranty. So we still have 2 years on the powertrain and 74,000 miles on the powertrain for the warranty.
And this was a command vehicle,
Yes, sir, that was a
so you're not, this is not somebody that's,
it was not used on patrol. That's paragraph in there. It might have armor all on the back.
any more questions for Chief Phil?
That's that.
What impact would this have on you in your fleet if we were to table this and roll it into the budget process? What would be the delay?
There would not be a delay. Like I said, I spoke with Jess Ratke. I also spoke with a gentleman by the name of David Lowry. I've purchased vehicles from him before down at Sames. This was an opportunity that came up. I can tell you that when purchasing these vehicles, you talked about being strategic. I believe you should be strategic as well. City of New Braunfels just spent $1.4 million on 27 patrol cars. So with that being said, yeah, police cars are a commodity. There's a limited supply. If you don't, you may end up getting you may end up getting stuck with what's left, and I'm afraid that might be bad for you.
So it's 2021 Tahoe is really kind of covered by.
Yes, sir, it's covered by.
Okay, thank you, Chief. I'll open it up for public comments.
Really from a person who knows very little about police cars or whatever. But I do believe your main priority as alderman and mayor is to keep us safe. And we need to keep our police officers safe. I'm excited about the fact that we're having people who live here want to work here. Regarding the cars, I may be wrong, but there's still COVID money sitting over at Jim Reed at Sitcom. I don't know how much, maybe it's 100,000 or so, and that can be used to buy police cars, along with a number of other things. But given that we're in a drought, and I know originally you were probably thinking, or the former board was thinking of flood and whatever, but it seems to me it's more important to keep us safe and keep our police officers safe in their cars. Manny would know. It's been so long since we did COVID and all that money, but I'm pretty sure there's still a bit of change in the COVID funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. Can you speak to that, Manny? Or is that something that we need to-
A lot of the code funds were tied into certain criteria that needed to be met. I mean, if there is, I came from the city, we had a lot of COVID funds, a lot of it was for housing. There was some expenses that we utilized for that could be utilized for public safety. Now, that was decided by the governing body. The governing body didn't utilize it. They used it to bring down the citizens' water bills and to help with commercials. So, I mean, I recall that there was a category in that. She is correct. But that would have to be decided how CITCOG's board of directors decided how those funds would be spent. And if not, I'll have, Chief will follow up tomorrow with the CITCOG, because if there is that category and it was allocated or appropriated, they would be, that board would decide. But yeah, Mr. Reynolds is correct that there was a category.
Any more comments, public comments? So, any more questions for Mr. De La Rosa?
I don't think that, Chief, your vehicle, the AC went out, or how long? Oh.
Your truck, his truck has no AC.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I just have one. So since this vehicle is a target of opportunity, and we have excess funds, or funds not being used, and so we're going to use those for food stamps.
Well, the chief is correct that he does have a category that hasn't run over the line item. So the way departments are run is, if the overall department doesn't overrun its line item, then he's okay. I don't know what all the expenses are in other categories, or if we have a catastrophic event that he needs to use those funds. That's the only concern. Yeah. So, look, whether you take action now or later in October, it's such a full period. But if you're going to add another person in this next budget year, you're already going to fall behind the wheel when it comes to vehicles. Should you purchase at least one? Yes. Should we pay for it cash? Probably. And then we'll decide whether we do the other lease purchase in this vehicle of opportunity. But because of the interest rate, it's crazy to finance it for anything. You're just financing it longer. I didn't even have them run the numbers how long that would be for the additional interest that they would love for you to pay out longer.
Chief, I don't want you to come back up here. I'm sure we can hear you when you speak. You got a quote on what it costs to fix that air conditioning? And it's a two-part question. That's the first part. The second part is, if we're going to buy a vehicle and your vehicle doesn't have AC, I'm presuming you might be stepping into a vehicle that has working AC at the end of this conversation. I respect that. What I'm getting to is, what's it going to take to bring yours back up to speed is the best way to say it. Have we decided that yet or found that out yet?
Can I interrupt? We need to stick to this agenda item. We can discuss the cost of the AC later. Really, that's where we're at. We're talking about these two deals. He's got money in the budget to fix his AC.
Mayor, I understand what you're telling me. What I'm also saying is that we're going to make a decision on spending money, even with the finished budget constraints. I'm sorry, man. Excuse me.
No, he's correct. He's talking
correct.
to me.
This is the board.
Go ahead.
So, with respect to that, my concern is if we're going to go ahead and say, okay, because I'm for supporting this measure. However, I want to know what issues do we have with the current vehicle, AC. The next part is Mr. De La Rosa just explained that even though there's a budget there and he may be under budget in some area, we don't know where he's potentially over budget in other areas. He's being bluntly honest. And that's why I was asking that question. That helps us determine what we're going to spend this money on.
What Mr. De La Rosa was speaking to was that the surplus in the budget, if he has a surplus currently, barring any sort of a natural disaster or any other thing that's going to cost a significant amount of money, that money will be there at the end of this fiscal year. So he's got we have money in the budget for repairs.
On my overall budget, at the end of April the 30th, to be even with the budget would have been at 58.33%. And currently on my budget, I'm at 54.54. So I'm below my budget. I'm below my budget. There are several items that are above. Training was originally 1,500. We're at 1,800.
Wait, let me just make sure I'm straight here, because honestly, your sublines, I bet your business, but your major line of accounting, you were, at what percentage spent?
54.5%.
And that as of what month, the end of April?
End of April. April 30th.
You got it, Bill?
No, that's all I have.
I'm good. Thank you for explaining that, Chief.
Any more questions for Mr. Del Rosa? Nope. Okay, I'm gonna open it up for a motion at this time.
I'm gonna make a motion that we accept off, Chief Fields' option 3 plan and have Manny and the chief and our accountants work on best way to finance that moving forward, because that needs to fall within, if it makes sense to buy the 2001 first. Obviously, a newer one would be in arrears, so we'd have to budget for that appropriately.
Second that motion.
Motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Bell and seconded by Alderman Graham. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question has been called. All in favor for approving the purchase of 2 additional police vehicles, option 3, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Bean, that passes 4-0. Item I, discuss and possible action on filling the vacant alderman position. Currently, we thought we had 3 options on the table when we actually only have 2 options. One is since we are a type A city in accordance with local government code section 22.010, we can fill the vacancy by appointment or leave it vacant. There's not a third option, but because of the type of government that we are, in a type A city. In order to hold a special election, we would need 365 days left on that term, and we can only do it during May or November. So that kind of takes that out of the equation. So the 2 options we have available to us are to leave the seat vacant, or the board can appoint someone. Manny, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, so that's correct. Yeah, the third option is, like you indicated, Mayor, just to clarify, is a general law type A city may only hold elections, a special call election, in May or November. So if you hold an election in November, the cost, our one half of the portion that we shared with the school district was $8,570. The November election would be with the county. They would have elections, so I'm sure you would split that cost, whatever that is. So this is a good indicator of what that cost would be. And that person there would be in office, what, 4 or 5 months? Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to open this up to public comments. If anybody would like to get up and speak to this.
Kathy Sands, and we've been coming to the meeting for a long time, since 2000. And sometimes people have to be absent, not for their fault, if they get sick or have to be out of town. And then that doesn't leave enough people to vote on situations that are critical. I think that it needs to be filled for that one reason. That's one reason. And of course, I would like to see the next person that was in line that got the most votes, because Paul does have the experience. But mainly it's because of the number of people. I think it's smart to fill this position.
Thank you, Ms. Sands. Anybody else? Anybody else have any questions for Mr. De La Rosa? Cut and dry. We got another.
Paul Cox, 2716 Winter Circle Drive in Salado. I agree with Kathy in the fact that I think you do need to fill the position. That's the way the whole process is designed. And you know, and as I told Mayor Henry the other day, he's going to be stuck in the middle with making a decision on all tie votes, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. There should be 5 people, and somebody that's got some experience in development, in construction, that knows development agreements and the legal side of it. I'm not eligible. I don't want to do it. But there's people in town that are qualified, very qualified. So I think you ought to look at those people and get anybody that applies, make sure that they have those qualifications, because it's important right now. That's what we've got. We've got new deals coming in all the time, and you got to have some experience in there. And I mean, with due respect, most people don't have that kind of experience. I mean, it's just not what you've done in your careers. So that's my recommendation, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Anybody else?
I appreciate the service that everyone has given. Mr. Cox was on the Alderman board for 6 years. But I'm not been personally happy with a number of decisions from the past. And I was kind of looking forward to new people. And as Paul said, there are plenty of people in the village who have qualifications. They don't have to have been on the board for years. I see Sam back here, Sam Morris, who communicates with the governor and knows and is trying to keep us all safe with electricity during the summer. He ran for office and acquired quite a number of votes. I think you should look at, maybe ask people go ahead and send their background in to you, as we all do when we run for office, and think it over and mull it over. I personally just think this is a great group of gentlemen. You all seem very bright and capable and focused and honest and ethical, and I think that you can all perceive the disasters that we've had in the past in terms of developers messing with us, and maybe it would be nice to have somebody new. I, of course, would always love for there to be a female personality on the board also, but that may not be happening just now. And I know I don't want to do it, so don't worry about me. I see Sam back there. I'm trying to see if, I'd mentioned my own sister, but her husband would kill her, so I won't do that. We've got a lot of people in the village, a lot of young people. I think it's important to have people who are facing the taxes going up, and I've always fought for the young families in this community who are going to be facing a huge school bond coming up. I think we should aim for people who are not on that fixed homestead and may not have kids around, and I think you just need some fresh new faces. That's what I would hope for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me? I agree with Linda. Number one, I can't do it. I did my time as on a P&Z member and part of the Comprehensive Plan Committee for years. So I've done my time, but I appreciate everything every one of you do. I know it's a lot of commitment and it's a lot of homework, and and it's a real responsibility. So thank each and every one of you for everything that you do. I like the idea of having new faces, and I remember a number of times in the past few years when some board members couldn't show up for a commitment they had with their family, or they were ill or whatever. But many times those members would Zoom in, and they would participate in the meeting, Zooming in. So I don't know why we can't continue to do that. When there's some reason, maybe we have another COVID event, or somebody's at a graduation or a wedding or whatever, or at work over in another city, Zoom in and participate in the meeting. And therefore, as long as you have a quorum, you can continue to have a meeting, I believe. But I would support the idea of Sam too, because I think he's very bright man, and knows how to work with government officials, and knows how to keep a group of people safe during disasters with electricity. So, but anyway, there might be others out in the community as well who would be interested if they had an opportunity to apply. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Anybody else? The board have any more questions for Mr. De La Rosa? No. All right, at this time I will entertain a motion.
I think we should have a conversation.
We just did. You got something to add to it? Go ahead.
I would like to add. So first and foremost, in light of the new information received about not having a special election based on what we know right now, the only two options, I still stand with the simplicity of the conversation. We were all elected by a group of the people in our community, which is very important. I hold that to the highest esteem. All right. We are all level-headed individuals on this board, but then again, at the end of the day, we don't represent the voting prowess of the individual who's out there in the community. In the same instance, I'm also stating that by appointing somebody, two things occur professionally for this board. One, it's a subjective pick and choose. It really is. Unlike the precursors that we all went through, filling out our documentation, meeting requirements, that kind of stuff, there's nothing, unless I'm corrected by Mr. De La Rosa on this conversation, there is nothing written in state law that says exactly how we're supposed to pick a person in the first place. That makes it subjective. As I stated the first night that I took this seat, I'm concerned with echo chambers and group think. That's where I'm at. Okay. It is the board's decision on what we do, and I am just one vote. However, at the end of the day, I respect the communication from the members of this chamber right now, citizens, greatly. But I will also say that I have heavy concerns about filling that seat arbitrarily, because it is a subjective conversation and a subjective selection process. And I want to be cautious about that. So thank you for allowing me to have that time, Mayor.
What's your recommendation?
Well, my recommendation at this point is to leave it blank. Leave it empty. Leave it empty. As our mayor, the purpose of you breaking a tie vote is in those rare circumstances when that actually occurs. All right. So in other words, two of us don't agree, two of us agree, and you got to make a decision, and that's why you're here. But however, that is the exception, not the rule in governance for our community. But however, I have confidence in this board that we'll be able to come to accord and make decisions based on the needs, wants, and desires and the best interest of this community. And to be honest, belay you from having to make those decisions in those rare circumstances, period. I believe in our board.
Yes, I do as well. Anybody else?
Thank you.
For discussion or a motion?
No, I'm going to entertain a motion now.
Okay.
Anyone care to make a motion?
I will. I make a motion that we leave the, fifth seat.
Motion was made by Alderman Hurst to leave the seat vacant.
I second that.
Seconded by Alderman McDonald. Any discussion?
A little bit of discussion. So with that, there's really three things that an alderman needs to have as far as I see it. It's character, judgment, and integrity. And if you have those three things, you can find the necessary professionals pursuant to their jobs and responsibilities to exercise the right judgment with a character, with integrity, come up with the desired solution, and make the intended decision that you need to make. And I think everybody brings something different to the table here. And like Michael, I do have quite a bit of confidence in this board. I think we serve something greater than ourselves, each and every one of us up here. And I think that if you add anything additional into this, you add to what we just came out of. And I think we need to move forward from that, regardless of how you do it. So with that being said, that's my discussion. I think that we're on the right path as far as this motion.
And I want to add, I too have all the respect in the world for this board, and I have a high level of confidence in that everyone up here is here for the right reasons, and there's not any, no special interests involved, and everyone's here for the interest of the community and the greater good. So regardless of which way this goes, I don't know that, and I'm not saying either way, yay or nay on keeping it vacant or appointing someone. My statement is that whichever way this goes, that I believe the board is quite capable of doing what we're supposed to do and conducting business on behalf of the village and the citizens and business owners in an ethical manner and getting it done. That's all I've got.
One thing I will say that I just want to add to this, because I forgot to say it before, was during the election, knowing that you had a sitting alderman running for mayor, all you had to do was take a look at what was in front of you, and you knew that this was going to be a possibility. And with the citizenry knowing that was going to be a possibility, if Bert was elected, they still chose to go that path. So knowing that they would leave a seat vacant and the board would have to continue that. So that's another thing to consider that I would like to think that the community thought of as well.
All right, anything else? Okay, motion's been called and seconded to leave the seat vacant. Question has been called. I'm going to go down the line on this one and get individually. Alderman Graham.
Yes.
Alderman Hurst.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell.
Yes.
Alderman McDonald.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0, Ms. Bean. Discuss some possible action on canceling the regular meeting of the Salado Board of Aldermen. No, I'm sorry. Item J, discuss some possible action on amending the Board of Aldermen governance policy and rules of procedure, section 5.11E, regarding the maximum time limit for a speaker to address the Board of Aldermen. That's an agenda item that I placed on there. I would like to see the time limit increased from 3 to 5 minutes for citizen communications and public comments. I understand that it's difficult to get up in front of us as the governing body and get up there and speak your name and your address, and you may have thought about it for a week or two what you want to say, and maybe you even wrote some notes and you're trying to get up there, but once you get up there you kind of go blank, your mind freezes up, your knees get a little shaky, and you kind of get yourself under control before you're able to speak. And I think that additional 2 minutes will give them time to kind of calm down, and that was the reason for me to do that. And I would again advocating for citizens and giving them the opportunity to say what they want to say without feeling rushed. Manny, you have anything you want to add to that?
No, sir, no, just that it is section 5.11 subsection E. So it does allow, these are the current guidelines that you currently have. You could always have extended it beyond the 3 minutes with the consent of the rest of the board members, so that will continue to stay in place. It is just being increased from 3 to 5 if this, motion or if this action passes.
All right. I want to open this up to public comments if anybody wants to get up and speak. Nope. Okay. Any questions from the board? All right. Open up to a motion.
Make the motion that we approve as written by section 5.11E to extend from 3 to 5 minutes.
Motion made by Alderman McDonald to approve,
I'll second it.
seconded by Alderman Graham. Any discussion? Question has been called by Alderman first. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Passes, Ms. Dean, 4-0. Item K, discussing possible action on canceling the regular meeting of the Salado Board of Aldermen on July 4th, 2024. It's kind of self-explanatory. July 4th is a federal holiday. So, Manny, you got anything to add to that?
No,
Okay.
I encourage you to approve it.
Do we need to shift or adjust or anything like that?
You know, we have a meeting scheduled for like July 2nd, but it'll just depend. We may move it ahead or behind. Many elected officials take vacation during that time, so we may have it the week before or the week after, just to stay on track with any business that may be needed. It would be a special call meeting anyway, so there's no reason to name it now. As we get closer and we need it, we'll call it.
Okay.
I will make a note, not for this, but, if y'all want to stack agenda items and whatever you want to do, I won't be here on the next meeting.
The next meeting you won't be, okay.
I'm on vacation and I will not be calling in. I don't want the Chinese to know what's going on.
July 2nd would be that's a Tuesday. That's going to be a special meeting?
That would be
July
a
2nd?
special meeting, and we did put it on the budget calendar when we were looking at this, but again, it could move very easily.
That will require all four to be here.
It would, yes, sir.
That does not, yeah, you can't have three. Four is gonna have to be, that is your minimum special meeting.
All right. Any other questions for that? No?
I make a motion that we accept the action of canceling the regular meeting on July the 5th, 2022.
Motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Bell. Second by Alderman Hurst. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question has been called. All in favor of canceling the regular meeting of the Salado Board of Aldermen on July 4th, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes, Ms. Bean, 4-0. At this time, we will be entering into executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code in accordance with the statutory authority contained in Sections 551.071 and 087 to consult with legal counsel and deliberate economic development negotiations with Stagecoach 1943 LP.
and enforce his commitment to the project. Nobody came back. Okay.
Oh, okay, well then, maybe I'll let you.
Okay, we're gonna reconvene in the regular session. The time is 9:50. Item 7A, discuss some possible action on agenda item 6A. I think at this time, we're not gonna take any action on this, correct? No action?
No action at this time, Mayor.
And we'll put it on a future agenda for a future meeting. You got anything else? You guys got anything?
No, thank you.
Next item is adjournment. I got a motion.
I motion to adjourn.
So move, 9:51.